Hello, welcome back to the Roker Rapport Extra podcast. It's obviously a little extra one for the preview show this week because we've got Villa midweek. Used to be a Premiership fixture back in the day. Kind of isn't now, especially with us sitting bottom of the Championship. But Villa were doing all right. But before we get onto that, what about Saturday? I'm not sure how I feel about that. It was kind of all right, wasn't it? But I don't think draws are going to be doing us much good going forward, to be honest. As like I said on the last podcast, we've got all these games are cup finals, and I think 3 points need to start getting picked up. But we've got a pretty stern test on Tuesday, tomorrow as it is, or today if you're listening, against Villa, who have probably below expectations of what I thought they would be, but still third off top. And in reference to that, obviously I've got my guest today, which is James from the 7500 to Holte. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's fine, mate. Yeah, we have done all right, I guess. I expected to be a bit higher, a bit more confident, but I guess you can't moan about third at all.
No, not at all, mate. And I think, especially if you're in our situation as well. But obviously, the first thing I wanted to sort of chat about and go straight into, there's a lot of stuff I could speak about with Villa. We could mention your wonderful day that you relegated the scum. We could talk about Steve Bruce. We could talk about Lewis Grabban. But before we begin, I think it's probably worth looking at your summer recruits. I'm quite interested and intrigued to see how they've done. I've got a little list here. And I mean, I remember most of them off the top of my head because you sound some pretty big, well-known players. You had Glenn Whelan that came in. You had John Terry. You had Josh Onomar. You've got, obviously, Grabban's came in, Sam Johnson, Snodgrass, and then Elmo. But less about that said the better. I'm not the biggest fan of Elmo, but how have your summer transfer signings done? Who's been the best?
Without a doubt, I think the easy and popular answer would be John Terry. Of course, captain, leader, legend, all that. Off the pitch, we'll leave the off the pitch stuff, or even the on the pitch stuff to another day. But Robert Snodgrass, mate, bag of fun, wind up merchant, absolute. He's a clown. But he's come in so big for us this season, and can't be underestimated the impact he's had. That left foot he has, it's a wizardry. The things that he can do. And I mean, I say that as, a club in the Championship, and it seems a bit embarrassing when you're watching like Barcelona on Sky Sports on the weekend, but it seems like Snodgrass is a hell of a player. And he's the type of player that brings joy to you because he'll win the fouls, he'll smile, he'll have a cheeky laugh, he'll wind up the away fans, score goals, bag the points, go home, and he won't care. I do love him. But John Terry, of course, has been amazing. He's had a few poor games recently. So with I've got the benefit of hindsight and stuff, and all the recent stuff he's done. I have to go for Robert Snodgrass, who's really pulled it out of the bag for us this season.
I think Snodgrass was someone that we were interested in. He kind of like my heart shattered a little bit there because the one thing that Sunderland are really missing, if I'm honest, a little bit of quality, probably a little bit of leadership right from the top, but character. And I think that's one thing I noticed with Snodgrass is that he brings a boatload of talent and character to the club. And we were obviously linked to him when Grayson was here, right before sort of you went to yourselves. But I mean, if you rewind back sort of a year ago with Snodgrass, he was, a well thought of Premiership player. I suppose he just made the wrong move and going to West Ham. So he's from what you're telling me, it sounds like he's shown his Premiership quality. Then I take it, yeah. Yeah,
definitely. I think if you go back before he went to West Ham, when he was at Hull, he was really, really good. He was banging in the goals for Hull in the Premier League. Under Marco Silva, I think he would have been amazing. Even then, I don't know if he'd have got on with Marco Silva, but he went to West Ham and it really didn't turn out well for him. And I don't know if you've seen, he's had high-profile spats with the West Ham chairman whilst he's been at Villa over Twitter. So I do think there's a small chance he could go back, but I don't think it's likely, especially if Villa go up. I think he's really settled in well here, and I think any club that went in for him and didn't get him, it's poorer without him. I was showing me Sheffield Wednesday, who actually wished Snodgrass death threats after his performance. When he was majestic against them, to say the least. So they were in for him, and they ended up wishing him death threats. So you can see how that's going to go. Yeah, amazing player. Really enjoyed him.
And what about, obviously, the experience heads you brought in? I suppose you've got Glenn Whelan there, 33, John Terry, obviously 36, you've mentioned. But you've got a few of the younger boys that have came in as well. I mean, you've got Sam Johnson, you've got, I can't pronounce his name, but the boy from Manchester United, I don't know if he's played very much, but Josh Onomar as well. Are they kind of older heads and the younger heads kind of spearheading this sort of charge towards promotion, and they're looking after each other?
Yeah, definitely. And it doesn't seem like there's much of a gap between them, because you'll see Sam Johnson telling off John Terry quite a lot. And that's quite incredible to see from a 25-year-old keeper who's barely had one senior season in football outside Manchester United. He's been at Yeovil, Preston and Villa twice. And he's shouting at John Terry to shape up. I think it's amazing to see the dynamics that they've all brought to Aston Villa, because these players have been brought in not just because of their technical qualities or their physical qualities. It's been brought because they're good people, they're decent lads, and they know what they're doing, and they're not here, to earn 80 grand a week and have a laugh and a joke. Like, that happens at clubs that, you'll sign a player, give them loads of money, they don't turn out right, and you're stuck with them for years. We've had that problem. I'm sure you've got that problem. And we've hired players who seem to be the right type of person. And I know that sounds very cliche, but when you're looking at people like John Terry, Glenn Whelan, Elmo, for example, and Sam Johnson, they're all professionals, and they've really rubbed off well on the Villa squad. A Villa squad that included Jack Grealish, who is quite, if you haven't been following Villa since they're relegated, Jack Grealish is someone easy to write off as, gets drunk all the time, wasting his talent, this and that, and that, those are valid criticisms. But since John Terry and all these professionals have come in, he's been nothing but that professional. So they've really rubbed off well, and I think it's worked out brilliantly for us so far.
I think John Terry's one of those players. I mean, I'll openly admit I can't stand him. He's everything I hate.
I completely agree. It's just when he's playing for your club, it's all right almost.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like, I don't want to say Lee Cattermole because he had a poor season, but it's like a lot of people have this opinion of Cattermole, but, he's a bastard, but he's ours. He's our bastard sort of thing. Yeah. And I think the only thing I remember about John Terry is that the simple fact that last season we had to do like some sort of guard of honour because of bloody David Moyes, as he went off on like the 26th minute or something like that, because we played Chelsea in the last game of our season, got beat 5-1, and we agreed to kick the ball out so we could give him some sort of bloody guard of honour, both Chelsea and Sunderland fans. And it just, it makes me sick.
That's weird. That was incredibly strange, I will admit. I'm not sure why that happened or why it was agreed to happen. But there you go.
I think because David Moyes just, he didn't see Sunderland as anything that was worthy of doing anything less than that. Like, I think Moyes was just, he never wanted to be here, long story short. And I think my opinions on David Moyes and many people's opinions on David Moyes has been well aired. So, But John Terry, as you said, if he's playing for you, it's very different. But, alongside all of that character that he has that people tend to not like, it sounds like because he's the captain at Villa now, right? I assume so.
Yeah, he replaced James Chester. He came in, you can't not make a John Terry captain, I guess. Yeah,
that's what I kind of thought. And I think it's weird because, we talk about John Terry if he plays for your club. But I was quite invested in England around the time that he was sort of coming through. It's very much changed nowadays. I'm not massively fussed on England, despite living in Scotland, which, can sometimes give me a bit of stick. But when it comes down to John Terry, obviously, he was always consistently England's best defender. And he was always someone you could rely on, someone with a voice, someone with a little bit of... He thinks something of himself because he is quite a good player, and he is obviously good to have on the pitch. Now, if you look on the reverse side of us, our version of John Terry is probably John O'Shea, which over the past few seasons, like a perpetual loser, essentially. And I know that might be quite harsh, but, we've been poor pretty much since he's came in since the beginning. So having someone like John Terry in your team as an absolute leader, obviously, is all good and, and whatnot with his vocal side of things, especially like we have that with John O'Shea. But how much of his playing ability has he lost? Has any of his pace gone or anything like that? Or is he just as good as he always was?
Well, the pace is it's not there. I won't lie to you guys. It's not there at all. Mm-hmm. I think he makes up for that with just pure intelligence, being able to read the game. Is probably his bit. He will get duped quite easily, and that doesn't mean he's not smart, but it means that he thinks that he can make the gap. And he won't. He'll go missing. He'll run for a ball and not be able to make it because his pace isn't there. And that's just a reflection on how he used to be, rather than him being stupid. We've seen too many defenders rush up the pitch to get a ball they know they can't get. But I think John Terry 2 years ago probably would have made that challenge, but John Terry now probably not. That being said, he does put in some great tackles. He is all I don't think he's picked up many yellow cards at all for Villa. And I think that's a reflection on him because you see players like James Chester, Alan Hutton lead off the ball, get into a bit of a scrap, fall over, drag people down, make up for mistakes by being a bit physical and getting yellow cards. John Terry, for some reason, is one of the cleanest players in our team, and he's really true professional at the back. But yeah, reading the game makes up for a lot of what he's lost in terms of the pace. I will look for the ball over the top against the pair of them because James Chester, obviously being a bit younger, has to do a lot of covering for John Terry. It's only natural if you've got an older centre back, you're going to pair him usually with a younger one to do just that. So I do look for the ball over the top to kind of almost split Villa's defence diagonally and make them just ask the questions of them. I think really is what Sunderland will, what you have to aim for is just ask the questions, because they have been shaky. They have been brought at Sheffield Wednesday, were all over us the other day. They would have been through on goal with a break after break if John Terry wasn't putting in these last minute stops. So you'll have to ask the questions of the pair of them, really.
And I'm obviously looking at other signings as well. One name that really surprised me, but it didn't surprise me that he went to Villa with Steve Bruce being the manager, because he seems to take him wherever he goes. But Elmohamady, he really didn't go down too well at Sunderland. And there'll be people that did like him, but essentially he just didn't really work. How's he been at Villa?
He's been all right. A solid 6 out of 10. He really is putting a bug. He's bagging assists for us. I will be honest with that. Mm-hmm. And he really does have a partnership with Robert Snodgrass that will put him in that right back position above people like Axel Tuanzebe, who's obviously on loan from Manchester United, or James Bree, who we bought from Barnsley. Man City are after him. Yeah. And Almo has come above all these, and Almo's actually put Alan Hutton out at left back. So yeah, he's really, really took that spot for his own. And he was out. He does get rotated in and out, but and that says it all. He hasn't really made that position his own until a situation happens where he's just there and he's the man who can't be. It's weird because he's not the best performer. You guys will know. Any Sunderland fan will know he's not the best performer. He's not the best performer, but he seems to be able just to do the right thing in the right time for us at the moment. I think he might just be in a little bit of good form that's keeping us going, because he does have a good partnership with Snodgrass. It is working well for him. And he really does have a good cross on him, and I'll give him that. A deep cross, an early crosser into Hogan is usually what grabs us a goal. So I won't fault him too much. We've only had him for just under a season. We only signed him in the summer. So yeah, the jury's still out on Almo. To be fair, I won't judge him too harshly. I think you guys had him for a few seasons, so and obviously it hasn't been going well at Sunderland for a few seasons. So players aren't going to turn up. You've had Joleon Lescott, for God's sake. So, I really do have a soft spot for Sunderland, especially due to mutual hatred. Yours more so of Newcastle. So I won't go in on Almo too much. There has been times when he's went completely missing, but we've had that problem at right back for so long that I can't pick out Almo and fault him for it, to be honest.
Did Steve Bruce still do that thing where he gets your goalkeeper to just launch it at Elmo's head from a goal kick, or is he too far back now? Because he used to play right wing for us. He was more right wing than right back. Yeah. He used to just get him pelting, it was Simon Mignolet at the time, I think. Just used to launch these huge long balls. And I mean, it's weird you said that Elmo could put a cross in, because I can't remember one that he's ever put in that was decent, come to think of it, from Sunderland's perspective. But he used to win loads of headers.
Yeah, completely. If he's playing at right wing, then he's going to be too far up the box, making mistakes. I think it's because he's right back, he can launch a cross in from the halfway line. So he's got so much more space to do it. He hasn't really played right flank for us much. I think it's 2 or 3 times. It's never been a good situation. It's when he's been forced to play there. We'd still do the long ball thing, but it's more so Almo kicking long balls to anyone. You can kind of find one. So that's the long ball situation for us. Yeah, Sam Johnston, he does have a punt on him. So, but yeah, we're not aiming at Almo at all, unfortunately.
Well, I'm pleased that Bruce has learnt from that. So I suppose, talking about signings and stuff like that, we've gone through some pretty big names there. John Terry being the standout one. Sam Johnson was obviously at Man United. Another player we were linked to, Robert Snodgrass, obviously doing really well. And if you look at Villa as a championship team, I think far and wide, they're probably the most strongest, certainly on paper. So season's expectations going into the league, you had a poor season last season. So, well, not poor, you improved towards the end, but it was a difficult season. So did that kind of realign your expectations a little bit? Are you where you expected to be, or?
Oh, last season was bad. I honestly make no bones about it. It would have been one of our worst seasons on record if it weren't for the fact we were relegated really bad poorly the season before, because we didn't turn up at all. And we seemed to have this kind of cocky confidence that would walk the league. We had Di Matteo and we were trying to gun teams down with 4 or 5 strikers on the pitch at a time. He got sacked. Steve Bruce came in and he did really well, to be fair, at the start. And then calamity after calamity happened and we collapsed, and we were looking, I wouldn't say we were in maybe your position now when we're rock bottom and almost trying to climb out, we were looking down over our shoulder and thinking, hey, teams are picking up points on us, and we're looking at those bottom 3 spots, and we've really got to make a fist of this if we're going to get out of this, because it turns into a scrap. You'll know that it's horrible. That you're looking for every single point you can get, and you don't want to do that. You want to be able to lose a game and go, oh, okay, that's a loss. We can move forward. Last season wasn't good at all. I can happily say, and we've improved because it's the attitude that's been brought in. And you might think players like John Terry will come in, and there'd be this sense that you're going to walk the league now. But it's been anything but that. We've been really professional and done the job seriously. And there's been barely any flamboyancy in our team this year. I do love creative play, but it was something that was killing us last year. We were trying to do so much with the ball, and we were gunning for teams. People like to go on about attacking football loads. We were gunning at teams for 90 minutes, then conceding a last-minute goal, and like it wasn't a surprise. And we've really played a lot more smartly this year, and we do seem very cerebral. Almost, we pick our moments. We're happy to give the ball away. We don't care about possession. We're really happy to just make one killer move and end the match there. And I'm really proud of how we've kicked on in the last season, really.
Yeah, and I think in a sense it's quite easy to probably look at Villa and say, look at who they brought in, they should be doing this well. But I think, we ourselves are learning probably even more so than you did last year, that you don't just come into this league and win games. I mean, we've won 5 all season, which is horrific. And, people might say we went down in a worse condition in Villa, but I don't think we did. Like, I think we both went down in similar fashion, and you had a poorish season last season, as you've sort of mentioned. We're probably having a poorer one, but I mean, if we stood up this season, I can't see us coming back and doing what Villa have done, even with sort of additions on top of that. I mean, we might. I don't think we'll get out of it. But I think it's funny you mentioned before about Brucey having a bit of a calamity. Did Brucey have one of his mid-season wobbles by any chance?
He had a few. He's had one this season, to be fair. But last season he come in, and I think we were unbeaten for quite a good stretch. Then we didn't win any games for about 10 or so games. Then we started winning again, and we were thinking about playoffs for real. And then we drew against Burton, and that ended the season. So yeah, he did have a wobble. He has had a few wobbles, and we're hoping that we are not going to experience another one, really, because it wouldn't. Of course, it would end the season.
I mean, it's very much Steve Bruce territory to do that kind of stuff, and it's funny because obviously Bruce is your manager, so I know what he's like. I know what his chat is, and how he likes to change the course of history and what we thought of him. But having Bruce as a manager, he does speak about Sunderland a lot in terms of how we allegedly treat him, and it was all because he was a Geordie. And I'll testify. I don't know anyone who disliked him for being a Geordie right up until the last game when we just wanted him out because he was just terrible. But Brucey has this ability to have. He's quite likable for like a couple of seasons. But obviously he came into your club in a very different manner. We got him, as a Geordie, yes, but no one really cared. And I honestly mean that. I mean, I don't know anyone who went, oh, he's a Geordie. Like, I don't want that. No one really cared. It was like, if he can do the job, fine. And he did all right, but he just had mid-season collapses. And this whole story that we wanted rid of him because he was a Geordie is just simply not true. It's just simply not true at all. But when he came into Villa, he was obviously an ex-Birmingham manager. I can't imagine Kevin Keegan coming into Sunderland.
No, he's probably Birmingham City's, Birmingham City's greatest ever manager, really, for what he's done to, a League One club.
Yeah.
To a perpetual Premiership Championship side up a tier, to be quite honest. They, not under him, they didn't win the League Cup under him or anything, but he made the foundation for them. They're terrible owners, but, of course, the people who own West Ham used to own Birmingham City. There wasn't a lot of hype about his appointment. He was the obvious choice.
Yeah.
Almost like Sam Allardyce is when you're struggling in the Premier League. It's like you just turn to that name, and it either, it's 50-50, it either works or it doesn't. And if they can survive that one season, they might just really kick on. And I guess that's what's happened for Brucey at us. But yeah, I mean, at yours, he was, you can say about the Geordie stuff. At ours, you can say about Birmingham City. But I think there is a lot of likability about him because he does take the job at face value. He's almost like a very simple man who knows his limitations far too well. And I think I have to kind of applaud him for that, because you see managers like Gus Poyet, Remy Gard, Tim Sherwood, especially have absolutely Alan Pardew have absolutely no idea of where their job is meant to end. They try and do it all. They try and be the jack of all trades. It ends up failing and it ends up damaging the club horrifically. David Moyes is the same. You have these people who think they can boss the entire job, and managers like Alex Ferguson knew their incredible limitations. They knew that A, they were just a man manager, and B, they needed to hire a really good team under them to oversee the day-to-day. And that's a credit to those people who know those limitations. Exactly like Steve Bruce. Not comparing him to Ferguson at all, as you'll know. He's nowhere near the caliber of that manager, but he knows his limitations. And I think if that's one thing he's learned from the tutelage of Ferguson, of course, being a former Fergie man, is that you need a good team under you. And, I credit him for doing the job he's done at Villa, really, because we were spiralling.
He still has that kind of face that looks like a punched cushion, which I find quite funny with Brucey. But yeah, Brucey has this knack of just appearing in a good job and doing a good job, and then gradually fucking it up over time. When he's left them in a half-decent position, to be honest. And it was a bit of a shame for him, I suppose, at Sunderland. I mean, a lot of it was his own fault, and a lot of the vitriol towards Steve Bruce is the way that he's changed the course of history. And he had a bit of a go with the fans. Like, I remember I can't remember exactly what it was, and he said, "Well, what do you expect? This is Sunderland," and it was just like, "Yeah, and we're a pretty big club. Like, we don't just." I think it was when we got beat 5-1 off Newcastle, and he said, "Like, I can't shake that," and so on and so forth. And he just kind of made stuff up and assumed that we disliked him for certain reasons and changed the course of history. But in reality, if you look at what he did at Sunderland, he probably had the best Sunderland team in the last the Premiership years we've just came out of. He probably had the best sort of team. He built a great team. He had obviously Darren Bent, who was absolutely dynamite for us, the absolute bastard. And then we also had Jan, Welbeck. We had Henderson, Mignolet. We had a really good side around that period of time. But what really, really damaged him was actually Darren Bent going to Villa, and then Henderson going to Liverpool. And he spent money on like $6 million on Craig Gardner and Kieran Westwood, Wes Brown, John O'Shea, and he brought in like a raft of players that were just not the same quality as what he'd lost. And then at the same time, we went from having, and I don't know how much of it was his fault, is kind of what the point I'm trying to make. Darren Bent obviously went, and he had his reasons. What they may be, I don't know, and I still will never know. Danny Welbeck went back from his loan spell and did really well at Manchester United before going towards Arsenal, having his injury problems. And Asamoah Gyan left and kind of after the transfer window to go and play in Qatar. And we ended up going from Darren Bent, Danny Welbeck and Asamoah Gyan, like the Holy Trinity, going towards Nicholas Bentner up front on his own. And he really struggled at that point. And we were like, we'd start every season well, and we'd end up in in the top 10. And then he'd have these like a 13 to 14 games of playing terrible, and we'd end up mid-table. That's kind of how his seasons went for us. But he started really badly after that season, and he was gone by October time. And yeah, we give him some shit in his last game for being overweight and Geordie. But it was just the first song that sometimes comes to your head. Football fans are fickle, but we never really turned on him until that point. And I think that's where the real vitriol came from Steve Bruce. It wasn't that we didn't like him from the start. We actually were kind of on board. He was quite funny, quite likable. I mean, one of the most weirdest looking blokes I've ever seen in my life, but kind of half likable. You got the Northeast, you understood it, being from Newcastle and so on and so forth. But it was the vitriol towards Steve Bruce comes more from him changing the course of history as opposed to anything else. And I think that's probably why he'll get quite a rough time tomorrow. But he does have a knack of pulling teams out of the shit and putting them in a decent place. And I think there's only really us he hasn't done it with. But how much of that was his fault? I don't know. Because I think the Darren Bent thing, I think we both know that wasn't necessarily Steve Bruce's fault. But I see Darren Bent rocked up with Burton now. What happened at Villa with him?
To be honest, the season we bought him from you guys was completely. I think it was Darren Bent is someone who's accumulated massive transfer fees for seemingly almost no reason. I mean, he's a very good player. He's obviously bagged goals for both of our teams. But to pay, I think it was 24 million.
It was
what we paid for him. That in the time, I think that was 2009 odd. That's insane. That is an insane fee for Darren Bent in any era of time. He really did well for maybe a season or so. There's one season he definitely saved us, and I believe it was the first season he come over, because he came over in January, and that season he saved us completely. Then managerial changes happened. Then he didn't really fit into the team. Then Paul Lambert come in with these two Scottish coaches, these old Scottish coaches who were convicted of workplace bullying. They basically made this thing called the Bomb Squad, which is where we chucked Alan Hutton, who's still around, God bless him. Alan Hutton, Shay Given, Charles Nzogbia, and Darren Bent got chucked in there to play with the under-18s and the under-16s for absolutely no reason. It's beggars belief. But that's what happened to Bent at Villa, and he never really made his way back from that. Of course, happy to pick up the paycheck and all that, and I don't blame him, to be honest.
Yeah.
But saved the season, scored a few goals. I can't be too mad. But it was a lot of money to pay the simply postpone relegation, I guess, for 5 years. But we'd have definitely went down. That's the ironic thing. If we didn't have Darren Bent, and I don't know if it's I'd make that trade again, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, Darren Bent's someone that is just really not well liked on Sunderland. I don't think anyone really likes him. He was dynamite for us. He was literally brilliant, and then out of nowhere, that's where our whole downfall came from. Darren Bent leaving, because Steve Bruce never replaced him, and no manager did. When Darren Bent left, we were 6th off top in the Premiership. And then we ended up finishing 10th that season. It was very luckily, very, very luckily. We should have finished about 12th, 13th. But Steve Bruce will remind you that he finished 10th that season, and that was our highest. He will remind you, trust me. He'll mention it at some point.
He's like that, isn't he? He is very much like that.
Oh, he likes to let you know, and he always says for sure after that and stuff like that. Oh, that's for sure. And the thing with that season, after that period, like I said, Jan went and Welbeck obviously went back from his loan, and we never recovered from that. We had like 5-6 seasons of battling that relegation, just escaping at the end, and it did all spiral. And I think I would like to think, I don't speak for all Sunderland fans, but I would like to think a lot of people agree with me that Darren Bent leaving us was the start of our downfall, because we never replaced him and just spent all that money we got from him on absolute crap, because we got the best part of 40 million from him and Henderson in 6 months, and we wasted it on free transfers. Like, maybe I'm being harsh here, but Seb Larson, who did have an all right career here, but he never really set the world alight massively. Craig Gardner, Craig Gardner's a likeable lad, but I think we both know, you as a Villa fan, me as a Sunderland fan, he's not worth 6 million in 2009. Not at all. Not even worth 6 million at any point in any era. And that's kind of where we had the downfall. But talking about Sunderland strikers that you've kind of picked up from us, it's the second time since obviously, the first time since you've took Darren Bent, the second time you've done it in total. Technically, you've took our top scorer this season as well, Lewis Grabban. Not quite the same situation as Darren Bent, but Grabban, we spoke about a few times on here. A few people have said, I used to ask the question, who would you take from Sunderland? And a lot of it was Grabban. And when Grabban went, people go, well, I would have liked Grabban, but he's gone now. So, but Grabban, obviously, I don't know the situation with Grabban. I don't know if he has to leave or if he was allowed to go. And I'm very much a Grabban fan, but Grabban was Marmite with Sunderland, despite the fact he had 12 goals. How are Villa fans finding him so far?
He's been all right. He's scored 2 goals for us. I think he's only made three or so appearances. He's come in and he's done a really professional job. He tried to snatch a penalty off Robert Snodgrass in the Sheffield Wednesday game, which shows that he knows what he's about, really. Yeah. Snodgrass told him where to go. But I think we haven't got much to judge him off, but he's worked really hard for us. To be fair, he's the kind of forward for us. He seems to press the back line, which is something we kind of needed, because we only had Keenan Davis, and the poor lad was getting played for England under 20s, midweek, then coming to us and playing a full 90 minutes, then playing for the under 23s. So the poor lad needed a really good rest. So Lewis Grabban's kind of come in as our number 9 to help Scott Hogan shoot us up to promotion. And he's done an all right job. I guess we'll see more of him when we play each other, because I think he might even start. We haven't really got much tape on him, unfortunately, but he's done all right. I guess 2 goals in 3 games isn't that bad at all. I
mean, Grabban, there was a few penalties there, and the thing that the Marmite situation with Grabban was, a lot of people, you will find in Sunderland, a lot of people want the player to play out of his skin and they want him to run about everywhere and put in all the effort. That's just a Northeast thing, I think. And I think it's a lot of football clubs in working class areas want to see that, because we want to be that person on the pitch that runs our bollocks off. And if we don't see that, we sometimes question it. And I think it wasn't so much that, my opinion, and people will disagree with me, is that Grabban wasn't so much that. He's quite an intelligent player. He uses his energy on the right moments. I mean, he scored 12 goals for us, and a lot of them were like unspectacular, but we've struggled. We've brought in Ashley Fletcher, and we've got Asoro and Josh Madger, who, to be fair, are 18-year-old kids. It's not fair to put faith in them, but Ashley Fletcher, 21, 22, yeah, still young, but he's not Lewis Grabban at all. He just seems to be the kind of striker that's in the right place at the right time. He scored 2 for you, but one of them a penalty? Would I be right in saying that?
Yeah, one of them was a penalty, kind of a crappy penalty as well. He almost passed it into the middle of the net, which was quite risky when we're 1-0 down against Preston. Hey-ho, he did score, but yeah, he's done all right. I can't fault him too much. Of course, he seemed like he's kind of come in and done his job, especially after, I think, I'm not sure what happened with the situation, but I believe from what I've read, and I've read a fair bit into it for a player I barely have any connection to, but it seemed like he's genuinely desperate to get a permanent contract at a club that will play him. And I think the calls were coming into Bournemouth about making a permanent move. Not Bournemouth, yeah, but it was Bournemouth he played for, about making a permanent move. So obviously he had to cancel his loan deal at Sunderland, and the permanent move actually never happened. So I think that's, from what I can gather, that's that. But I think there's been plenty of discussion about him just walking into Sunderland and kind of cancelling his accommodation and walking to Bournemouth. So the truth is going to be somewhere in between, I guess. I think he did really well for Sunderland. He did well enough to put himself in a shop window, I guess. Yeah. Those goals must have helped somewhere along the line.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is with Grabban, I think the way I take it is, and the story that I've heard, and we've all got different versions of the story, and it'll come out in 10 years' time probably, but I think as far as I'm aware, the story I've heard is that Grabban had 6 months to go on his contract with us. He got himself into a position where, Cardiff were looking at him, Wolves were looking at him, you were looking at him. He wasn't wanted at Birmingham, at Bournemouth, obviously. And I think when you're hitting 30, you want to go and earn a contract at a place that might play you in the Premiership or might get towards, promotion to the Premiership, which Cardiff, Wolves, and Villa all kind of tick the boxes for that. Comes to the end of the season, he's not going to sign for us because we don't have the money. Even if we went on a really good run and stayed up and he wanted to stay, we don't have the money that they would ask for Grabban, which would probably be about 6 million, where Villa, Cardiff, Wolves all obviously do. And I think he's got full right to earn that contract. I think he did well for us. And I think anyone who criticises Grabban for being lazy, well, take his 12 goals away. Where would we be?
Yeah, I think he has every right to earn that money, because what happens, Sunderland can't sign him. What happens if his form, who's in a purple patch? What happens if his form falls off the complete face of the earth? Then you're not wanted by Cardiff at the end of the season. You're going to be wanted by Rochdale rather than Wigan, Blackburn. You're not going to earn the money that you want to kind of set you up for the rest of your life. And it sounds silly because he's earned, obviously boatloads not even playing for Bournemouth. You want to set yourself up and earn that one last paycheck, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know if he'll get it at Villa. I'm really not sure he's the type of player we'll end up actually signing, but he's here for some reason. So I guess we'll see how it pans out.
I think one thing I really, really wanted to ask you about, one thing I think the way Sunderland are at the moment, I don't think it takes a rocket science to work out where we've gone wrong and who is really to blame for whether it's his fault or not, in terms of if he's actually wanted to do it. There's been maliciously wrong decisions. I don't think so. But Ellis Short is obviously, it's come to the point where neither of us want each other. He's absent, where we've got no money. We've been completely stripped. I think, I don't like Ellis Short. I'm been really angry at him for the past few months, I think. But, to try and be a little bit fair on him, I don't think he intended to get it wrong. I don't think anyone does. And that really, really reminds me of a person that you'll be aware of, obviously Randy Lerner.
Of course.
Very, very similar situation. Came in promising the world to an extent, or at least that he wanted to get us here and there and everywhere. And, he still testifies that he wants to get us in the top 7 of the Premiership. Like, it's not going to happen. He's made the wrong decisions in the same way Randy Lerner did. And I think we've seen with Villa last season the problems that you had, despite the fact they had new owners and things like that. But how much of a new lease of life can a new owner give you when you've been through a period where an owner just hasn't worked like ours is, because we're gagging for someone to take us over and just put us somewhere steady and make the football enjoyable again.
Well, it's really important to have a leader, and you imagine playing your games without any kind of focal leadership point on the pitch. It's almost like that if you don't have a solid chairman who isn't going to show up and set the rules. If you have a chairman who is absent, what's going to get what's the structure? Who's making the decisions? Who's in charge? Do the players care? Because it's really, if apathy is toxic and it is infectious. If an owner doesn't care about the football club, the fans will start to not care about the football club. And you can say all you want about how staying away from a football game is the biggest protest you can make, but that's it's bollocks. Because you stay away, this club just stagnates and dies. You haven't done anything. The protest isn't there. The chairman can't sell. Apathy is infectious, and if an owner's not there, if the owner's love or goals for the club have died and they can't get rid of it, or they can't sell, or they don't want to sell, it's a really, really horrible situation. I really do feel for Sunderland, because it almost looks like you've had Randy Lerner had a genuine love for Aston Villa, and you can see that in his leaving statement. The language he uses when he speaks about Aston Villa, I don't think you could make that up. That couldn't be just a PR puff piece. It comes from the heart. I don't think Ellis Short has that at all for Sunderland. I'm not, the ownership around Sunderland seems completely, utterly random. Like, a bloke's just come in, bought the club, had delusions of glory. It's gone wrong because he's, he knows nothing about football. He hasn't put the right structure in charge. He's paid out 80 grand a week contracts to people who've just fell off the back of Man City. He gets relegated. Yeah, completely. Completely. Because I think it's a smart idea to hand Micah Richards and Jack Rodwell these contracts. If you're not going to cut it at Man City, why are you going to cut it at Sunderland or Aston Villa?
Yeah, no,
you're stuff right. Like that. And that's not to say that these people are terrible people. They make bad decisions and they try and fix them by making even poorer decisions. But it's just the apathy, to be completely honest. When it's done, it's done. And as much as it stings, all you got to do is show up and voice your frustration, support your club, and see what can be done. Because we've been there, and it seems like your situation's a lot worse than us, because you're on the precipice of like League One, and it's not like this is a footballing League One isn't like a footballing hellhole. Yeah, sure, you won't be going to Wolverhampton, you'll be going to Wigan, Blackburn, Shrewsbury, but yeah, it's not an abyss. It could be, it certainly could be, but it also we found new lease of life in the Championship. What's to say that Sunderland don't find new lease of life in League One? As bad as it sounds, you got to rid yourself. You got to almost cleanse yourself of the apathy, the toxicity, and find out what it means to support Sunderland again, without it being frustrating and without it being misery. Because that's what it was like for us. We were getting, both of us were getting slapped around at the bottom of the Premier League for so long. It's not fun. It really isn't fun, especially when we're beating up on each other. Because one team that's doing crap, we won 3 points against you. We're not even going to save ourselves from relegation. The apathy, it's killer. It really is killer. And when I see the post on Roker Rapport, and it's stuff I was writing 2 or 3 years ago. It's the same stuff. You've got an owner who's come in, says what he will, probably has a heart of gold, and he really thinks he's done the right thing, but it's a colossal fuck up.
Yeah, you've nailed it.
It happens. It happens. Yeah. And you've just got to hold your hands up and say, yeah, I don't hate anyone. I'm not angry about the situation. This happens. It happens in business. You see massive businesses collapse and fail. You see all people go into creative endeavors with all the belief in the world that this will work, and it don't work. You go into relationships, and the one day she's the love of your life, the next day, why have I chose to marry this person? We make bad decisions all the time, and I don't think you can blame Ellis Short for being human. I think what you can blame him for is not doing the right thing. And, you have to see a project like Sunderland through, whether you're handing it off to someone else or whether you're manning the ship yourself. With Randy Lerner, there was a difference, because his apathy stems from a massive public bitter divorce that he went through as one of America's most high-profile businessmen. And of course, of the Lerner family, the owner of the Cleveland Browns. He went in for a massive high-profile divorce and essentially disappeared after that divorce went through.
Oh,
and no one, the news didn't hear from him. Villa didn't hear from him. Apart from the odd statements where he handed off to a chief executive officer. But I don't see that with Ellis Short. I think there's a lot of cynicism we can have about Ellis Short, being that it seems just business with him. Randy Lerner had an established connection to Aston Villa, having been a supporter of the club during his education in England. I'm not sure about that with Ellis Short, which that's one thing that worries me, because you have an apathetic owner. It's almost worse than having a malicious owner.
I think, in a sense, you used the word apathy, and I think if you would ask the majority of fans at Sunderland, what is the overall feeling of the last sort of 2 years, that apathy or apathetic would be the word used. And I think, in short, the question I would want to ask you, because the worry that we all have is that Ellis Short is not going to be able to sell this. No one wants it. If Randy Lerner hadn't gone, where do you think Villa would be?
Yeah, it does. It genuinely does, because Randy Lerner could be me, someone who loves the club, owns a club. Something happens in their life, and the club isn't the most important thing, rightly.
Yeah, of course.
But then you have got the weight of millions of people who follow the club worldwide on you, and you have to make the right decision constantly. I guess, yeah, it would be. It would be almost exactly the same. I think one thing I have to testify is that Ellis Short really has stabbed Sunderland by not making any contingency plans for relegation.
Yeah.
Whilst we cut Michael Richards' wage bill in half, thank God. I do like the guy, but he was earning 70 grand a week in the Premier League. Thankfully, he's only on 35 grand a week now, with relegation clauses. So there is blessing there, whereas you guys, Jack Rodwell's contract is the kind of thing that will send you straight to administration.
Yeah, basically.
That's the truth, and it's horrible. I mean, I do think there'll be a situation where he does leave. I do think, there'll be a situation where you're not looking at that, but I can't understand how your club has survived relegation for the skin of its teeth so long, so admirably, fought so hard, and no one's really looked at it and go, hang on, if we buy a player, maybe we need to plan for relegation, because it is, it's a possibility, and that's the type of decisions that doom you. And it just seems like it's all not. I don't want to say it's on the cards for Sunderland, because it isn't. It's not at all. Things can change, but it's the apathy, the lack of foresight, and the lack of planning, and it goes down. It bleeds down. As much as I like Chris Coleman, and I think he's doing a decent job at Sunderland, I think he's turned you. You guys didn't look like a football team at the start of the year, but now you seem to be some kind of football team. You've picked up 28 points. Relegation isn't a foregone conclusion.
Yeah,
so I think you can disagree. Yeah, exactly. You can. I think there might be Sunderland fans who definitely disagree with me, and I haven't watched your team much this season, but it seems a lot more positive now than it was, which is ridiculous. It almost feels ridiculous for me to say. So yeah, I think we could have been you guys. I think we could have been exactly the same, making uninspired hires, making wrong decisions, paying the wrong people, and being in a real state, to be honest. Because it doesn't matter who you have or who's on the pitch. That apathy bleeds down.
Yeah, you're right.
You could have 11 world beaters. It wouldn't matter. I can guarantee you the players are probably trying the best they can. It doesn't look like that, though, because the apathy just bleeds down. How can you buy into a cause like Sunderland?
You're so bang on with that. And I think it's probably because you've experienced the same thing. I remember when we beat you 3-1 on, I think it was New Year's Day or the last game. I remember just watching your players, and I remember just seeing like Richards and fucking Julian Lescott, like just kind of sitting on the floor when the second goal went in. And it wasn't so much, or maybe it was the third one that Defoe scored, and it wasn't so much that they just looked so like, oh, here we go again. And it feels like our players, since Allardyce has gone, have that kind of here we go again demeanour. And there's a lot of people who are saying, maybe if you go down to League One, we can cleanse our team of these. I'm going to be honest, I think that they're weak losers. Like, you've got to have, if you want to give me 10 grand a week, I think I'll certainly try hard, like I'm sure they are. But I think I'll have a bit more about myself as well. They just seem to be so resigned to losing. But I think you're right. It's bled down right from the top. If you got an owner that doesn't give a flying fuck, how the hell's anyone else meant to give a shit? Do you know what I mean? If you go to work and your boss doesn't give a shit and your boss just says, yeah, do what you want, tell the customers to fuck off if you want, not bothered, you're not really going to feel inspired. Like, as much as we all hate our managers nagging, we like to have an idea of what our day is going to be like in our working life. Do you know what I mean? So how can we expect the CEO to feel positive about something? I mean, I don't like Martin Bain, don't get me wrong, but it's bleeding down from Ellis Short to Martin Bain towards Chris Coleman towards the players towards the youth team. And all of a sudden, the entire place becomes like just a cesspit of shite. an unhappiness and an apathy. Whereas if you come into a team, I was speaking to Chris Macon the other day, interviewed Chris Macon, who was obviously part of one of our best teams, and he was saying when he came into the football club, everything was positive. He's like, we all worked hard, but we all wanted to be there. Like the manager, like Peter Reid, was good. He was always positive. The youth team were top of the league. The reserve team were top of the league. The under-19s were top of their league. We were top of the championship, or what was the nationwide Division 1 then. And everything around the place was just the confidence. And when you got the fans behind you, and he was saying, there was no great formula to it. Basically, what it was just everyone was on the same page, and everyone was like dying for the next game because they wanted to go out and get those fans behind them and beat them and the team that they were playing. And if you look now, it is the opposite. And I know a lot of the players get a lot of vitriol, like they do. And I give a lot to people like John O'Shea. I've given a lot of Lee Cattermole this season. But you're probably right in what you're saying. All this apathy and this I don't give a shit is bleeding right from the top all the way down, because you don't... How many of those players know they're going to be there? Because if that owner changes, what's to say the manager doesn't change? If the manager's going to change, what's to say the players aren't wanted? There's so many reasons why it might not work, but it all just come from the top. And I've tried to find different reasons that the player's not good enough, this, that, and the other. And there's elements of it, of course. There's definitely elements of lack of quality and lack of character in the team. Definitely that. But has that been from years of just being like absolutely buggered down the bottom of the Premiership and now the Championship? You've got to ask yourself that, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know if... It's most of the apathy, because Marouane Fellaini for Man United, you can't tell me he has loads of character or tries really hard, but he's playing for Man United on, bottom of the Championship, or Man United won't get really, weren't in Villa's position. It's just a pure apathy, and it does, I don't like to point fingers at fans ever, but when you're, I've booed my team. I've been in a position where the fans are booing their team. I've booed certain players, and it's almost this. It doesn't help. As much as you want to release it, you need to. It's really difficult to say, because I've been there. I've completely been. I've been bottom of the Championship, but we've been there in these really horrific moments where you don't know what to do, and you just feel so much anger. But I think you've really got to just back the team, because that's all it is, really. You're there to back the team. I don't know if we go to football matches expecting 3 points every week. I mean, we expect a bit of effort, I guess. I mean, that might be the big problem at Sunderland. It's just we want to see that physical or that visible reward. We just want to see someone run for 90 minutes, I guess. But you've just got to back the team. It's as stupid as it sounds. The apathy, you can't let it get to you, because you're there to, watch your boys play, whether it was at Roker Park in the past or at the stadium, or like now, you're there to watch the boys play. That's all it was. It wasn't about wins or losses or draws, and I know how shit it is. I know how terrible it is, but you've got to take it right back to the basics of what football is about. See if you can get people down the stadium, and see if you can make some, the fight comes from the fans. Don't ever get that twisted that it doesn't. Don't ever think you don't have a role in football, because what I've seen at Aston Villa is vocal. Sometimes Villa Park's quiet. I get that. Sometimes there's no atmosphere. Sometimes it's dead. It was dead against you guys when you guys come. It was you guys were making all the noise. It's not like that most of the time now. We did have a dead match against Preston, but there's a vocal backing, a vocal appreciation of these players. And they are deserving of it. I don't think Sunderland's are, but you have to almost fake it to make, once it's there, it's not going to, once you back them, regardless of what's happening. I mean, it can't get any, I guess I say it can't get any worse than this, but we've both heard that.
For sure.
You've got to make it sounds stupid. You've got to make your own fun from it, because we were crap last season, and we weren't. Again, your situation's worse. And I don't want to make it sound like I'm slacking off, shitting on your team, because I know how terrible it is. But you've got to make your own fun. You've got to. When Newcastle come to us on the last day of the season, we were already down, and we knew we could bring them down. And we had inflatables in the air. We had everything going on, and just make a fist of it. Is that when we beat Chelsea 3-2 and they drew 0-0 at your place? That was a good day. Yeah, that was the last time I really had I'm so pleased I'm a Sunderland fan right now. No, it was such a good day. And such a good day. What pride is there in having a 0-0 draw against a team you barely care about? Except we don't like Newcastle. They hate us more than we just have really nothing to do with them. They really dislike us.
They're easy to laugh at. And you probably see them for what we see them as. And that was a good day. The both times that you effectively relegate. Well, you relegate them last day of the season when we celebrated, but we didn't really do much towards that. Obviously, we did the job against Chelsea and Everton, but you got the 0-0 draw against them as well, and that was. I've got to be honest, that was a bloody good day. I got a cracking headbutt off one of our writers actually that day, Tom Walsh, when Defoe scored the winner, and it took me a good couple of hours to kind of come round to realise that I hadn't actually broken it. But I haven't done that for a while. But maybe tomorrow, who knows?
Yeah, I mean, you just make fun of it. What my best day at Villa was in the Holte end when we were just having a laugh. The second it was in the air on 74 or something, and everyone kept these balloons, streamers, confetti, pyro, anything in their pocket until the 74th minute, and then it exploded. And that's what made the geezer Tony Shaw, who bought our team, really interested in buying us, because he just saw us having so much fun. And that is single-handedly the best day I've ever had at Villa Park, was when we were going down and Newcastle came to town. I don't see why it can't be like that at the Stadium of Light. It's a massive stadium with a vicious, very vocal fan base. I see the apathies there, but you've got to... There's plenty of supporter groups that can get together and make yourselves heard. It doesn't have to be this terribly negative thing. League One doesn't have to be the end of the world because you're 2 promotions from the Premier League. It's not.
Yeah, very true.
You've just got to think of it basically, and then just strip it. I've said, just strip it back the team. You can remove the apathy yourselves. It doesn't have to come from that. You don't have to simply have a new owner come in. You can make the club a really good. It sounds stupid giving you guys a job. Like you're not paying for tickets.
No, I kind of get it though. I do kind of get it. Like I think you're right. There's been like the whole place is like dead when I go to the stadium right now. And I travel from Glasgow, which there's people that travel a lot further, but you do have a little bit more time when you're, and I say in inverted commas, an exile, to kind of think about the day you've had, and you can go back home and you can reflect on the journey down and that hope you felt and come back. And it's been a long while since I've came back from the Stadium of Light or an away game and gone, really pleased I went there today. The atmosphere was good. I had a laugh. It's kind of the laughs, not the 3 o'clock till 4:45. And it is like, there's not even anger at times. There's like, sometimes we argue amongst ourselves, and it is that general feeling of apathy. And I think you're right. One thing Sunderland fans have got in abundance is dark humor and an ability to laugh at ourselves and take the piss. And I just don't feel there's been enough of that. And I think maybe that's what we need, like just to have a laugh back the team. At the end of the day, what else are we going to do? We're not going to deflect. There's plenty of people that say, I should support non-league and all that. They'll be back. We know they'll be back, like, because it's in your blood. It's who you're born with. I'm Sunderland through and through, and I always will be, no matter which division we're in. I'll always bleed red and white. Many people will say exactly the same. So we might as well go and try and enjoy it. We can't change it. We can't change where things are now. We can't go back and not sign Jack Rodwell and not sell the club to Ella Short. We can't. We have to go forward and hope that together, because we've got the right man in charge, maybe at the wrong time, but Coleman definitely is the right man in charge. He definitely knows the area. I definitely have a lot of belief and a lot of faith in Chris Coleman, maybe perhaps too much. But we've got a man in charge that gets the football club, a man that understands what potential it has. And yeah, things might be tough, but like you said yourself, if someone's looking from the outside at what Sunderland can be, maybe we'll get someone that comes in and kind of plows a little bit of cash in or just says, let's take it on. I mean, that's why Niall Quinn took the club. Yes, he'd played here and he understood what the Stadium of Light and Sunderland were as a football club and how big they could be. And he couldn't sit by and see us get relegated with 15 points. Bought the club, put Roy Keane in charge, and all of a sudden the passion's back, the fire's back, Sunderland's back. And yeah, it didn't work out perfectly, but sometimes it don't. But it would be nice to have some days like that back, most definitely. And I think, yeah, maybe it does have to stem from us. Maybe it does. Yeah,
I mean, we laugh at Major League Soccer in America for some of the mad shit we hear them chanting, some of the stupid. But man, I watched my first MLS game yesterday, Seattle Sounders versus Los Angeles FC. And one thing I can give them credit for is those Seattle fans stood up and sang the entire match, even though they were getting trashed. They barely did anything of note. You don't get relegated in MLS. You don't fold or go into administration. Your team might get moved, yeah.
Yeah.
But there's a lot to learn in the fact that people are there for the experience and literally ripping into the other team, no matter, even if they're getting beaten by them. They're saying, can you hear them sing? No. Can you hear the fucker sing? No, I can't hear a fucking thing, even though they're singing louder than them and beating them. So you've just got to, I think Sunderland has it there. to be this force. It really does. You might not be top 7 Premier League. You might just be yo-yoing between the Premier League and the Championship. You might just be an upper tier Championship team, but it's better than this. It's anything's better than this. Even just being in the mid-table in the Championship and having a packed stadium of like roaring the team on is better than this. And you can't let Newcastle have that, that quote-unquote glory of being the big supported team in the Northeast, because they're not. It's not the same. That they've had so much forced initiative to support the club when it weren't in trouble. They've brought the flags out when they were doing good. That's so good, but bring the flags out when you're doing bad. I would like to see Sunderland get one up them.
Bring the flags out when you're not spending £80 million in the fucking Championship. They're bastards.
Exactly. It's about back your team with vicious support. And I think you guys have a lot to prove, and I think this is make or break. And I really, really look to see Sunderland give us a massive game, and especially be very loud. I mean, it's a bit too late for people to listen to this, buy tickets, I guess, but turn up on the door, and maybe in the future I'd like get those attendances up. And you just don't sit and look at it like you're rewarding your owner or the football club. Look at it like you're backing Sunderland regardless.
Yeah, no, I agree with that 100%. I think you're bang on with that, mate. I think you're absolutely bang on. So just to kind of finish off, I guess, I don't always have to finish off on the same thing, but it kind of makes sense. What's your prediction for tomorrow's game? How do you see it going?
Unfortunately, I can't. I won't be giving Sunderland a win, mate, if you've only got 5. But then a Villa meltdown is always on the card. So, it's Steve Bruce, isn't it? I'm going to go for 2-1 Aston Villa. And I think you gave us a really good game at Villa Park last time, to be fair. I think we do have a bit of quality in midfield. I think it's going to beat Honeyman and Catamol, unfortunately. We got Hurahan, Bjarnason, Snodgrass. I think there's just too much quality in our team, unfortunately, and there is a toxic apathy around Sunderland. And you do have to take we have to take this situation as it unfolds, and unfortunately take them 3 points off you. But if you are going to beat us, mate, I will say please don't get relegated. Actually, make some use of those 3. If you're going to ruin our season, just make some use of those points.
Try and make sure it's worth it. Well, we'll certainly try. I'll take another draw. I think another 1-1. I quite fancy us. We've been all right the past few games. Yeah, defensively poor, and in my heart of hearts, I know Villa have way too much quality for us. But the crowd were good against Borough. Why not? Under the lights, stadium light on a Tuesday night. We can push you. I think we can. We're better than what we say we are, and we need to start picking up points. We need wins. Realistically, we need wins. But whether we get them or not, I don't know. But I think, I'll take us for a draw. I'll try and be a bit more positive than usual. But thanks very much for coming on, mate. I think it's been a really good chat. I think you've been through probably what we're going through at the moment, maybe similar, the same. You've come out the other end of it, and you've had some really nice words to say about Sunderland. And I've got to be honest, it's always nice to hear when someone kind of understands our football club and hates them lot as much as we do. So
happy to, man. Happy to. I think Sunderland have always been their first football match I watched on TV with Sunderland, I think. So, I've always got a kind of soft spot for Sunderland, and I think it's a shame seeing what you guys have went through. I'd laugh if it was Newcastle. I think it's fucking hilarious.
Well, since you relegated them twice, you're kind of my second team now and again.
Fair play. Having a love in there. Fair play.
Spot on. Well, thanks very much, mate. Are you going to the match tomorrow?
Unfortunately, no. I've got to wake up for work the next morning.
It's a long trek midweek.
It's a bit long, isn't it? Yeah, a bit tasty. That one is.
Bit for midweek, I'll let you off for that one. But I always end this the same. As much as the chat's been really, really lovely, really, really positive, I hope you have a horrible Tuesday. I hope we absolutely stuff you. But good luck for the rest of the season. I don't like Steve Bruce, but Villa I've got a lot of time for. So good luck for the rest of the season, pal. And thanks for coming on.
Oh, you too. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Cheers, James. Catch you later. So that's the end of episode, 15 or something like that. Really positive, nice positive chat, that. Really, really good. I think there's a lot of similarities between us and Villa, mainly the way we've been relegated. The owner situation, we've had our kerfuffles with the Darren Bent situation and all that kind of stuff and whatnot as well. But as tested to before, as much as I don't like talking about them, Villa did help relegate the Max twice. So I've got a bit of a soft spot for them. We've got on them for that. But really lovely to hear someone understand what we're going through and hope that we get out of it, because, I think sometimes when a club's suffering like ours is, football fans of other clubs, maybe outside of the region, who are of similar size, understand what we're going through, and especially Villa fans with kind of the problems they had with their ownership a bit ever so slightly different. But let's be positive. We've got some cup finals coming up. I said this on the last podcast. Yeah, we didn't win against Millwall. That was one of the cup finals. But Tuesday night, under the lights, stadium light, we know how good some of those games have been in the past. I mean, you've only got to go back to, fair enough, 15 or so year ago. But how many times, I mean, Everton a few seasons ago, we really rolled the team over the line that day, and we've got a much bigger part to play than I think some of us realise. And I know it's hard. I know it's really hard at the moment. But, we'll always be Sunderland. That's all we've got. It's just Sunderland. So just keep behind them as best you can. Support them in the way you feel is the right way to do it. And stick together, because that's all we've got. We've just got each other and the team, which we're never going to walk away from. Thanks for tuning in as always. Have a good rest of the week and enjoy your Tuesday.